first came across his work, in fact it was this piece here, in a little art competition that happens up here yearly. It's called Art Street. It's been going for 23 years. And I saw Ian's piece, it was last year, wasn't it, Ian? It was last year. And last year we sponsored that exhibition and we had all of the artists that had entered in here. So just to give you a bit of background, it goes for all the shop front windows that try and beautify Katoomba. And then at the end of it, we had a unified exhibition in that room next door there. And Ian's, it was fantastic. When I saw it, it brought so much attention, not only in the shop that it was located, but also the visitors that came to the gallery thought the piece was fantastic, and so did I. One thing led to another, and ta-da! A year later, just over a year later, here we are at an exhibition of some great work. And the framing is not too bad either. But what brilliant work. Now, obviously, I'm not here to talk and just keep boring you all. So there is a guest speaker. Luke, can I get you to come forward, please, and say what you need to say?
Okay.
Everybody. Luke, I don't know Luke's last
name. Hello everybody. It's an honour and a privilege to be asked to speak at Ian's launch/exhibition. I was first exposed to Ian's artistic talents many years ago when he offered to do a portrait of myself and my girlfriend at the time, who was here, and he did us, so to speak, by painting us as the Joker and Harley Quinn, one of the most villainous and psychopathic couples of all time. And I knew from that moment on that Ian was an artist with an uncanny capacity to articulate uncomfortable truths about human beings. And that was many years ago, and in the meantime, it's been a real joy to see his artistic practice develop in the way that it has. But nothing could please me more than the book that's actually been produced today, which is on sale outside for how much? $35. It's absolute bargain. You should get yourself one. At least for one reason, because I know it's been a long time coming. Ian's the artist, and the writer that contributed to that book is Hugh Newton, who some of you know, and who can't be here tonight because, at least for one reason, he's facing down certain nuclear annihilation on the Korean Peninsula. But they've been friends for a long time, and they've been trying to collaborate for a long time. And for one reason or another, it just hasn't come about. And that's not, unsurprising in some ways because, well, for one thing, the artistic life is a kind of solitary one. And you have to do art, I suppose, in a state of, isolation. You kind of have to do it on your own. There's also a great deal of internal struggle for the artist, if you don't mind me saying so as a non-artist. First, you sort of got to compete with yourself, your limitations, your technical limitations and so on. And then you've got to compete with other artists around you. Your art's got to compete with other art. And then you've got to compete with the artists that influence you, and you've got to kind of climb out from under their shadow and so on. And so when two artists come together, there's kind of a natural warring clash that goes on. And sometimes the result is a disaster. And so for 20 years, it was kind of a disaster between Ian and Hugh trying to get their work out. But they made it work this time. And that's part of the pleasure of the form of ekphrasis. And that's what the book is. It's a kind of ekphrasis. And, I don't want to be kind of a smarty pants about it, but ekphrasis just basically means a writer responding to pre-existing art. Now, what generally happens in ekphrasis is the writing goes one way and the art goes the other, and they have their separate lives and they just go on about their business. But the interesting thing about the book is that they can't do that. They're kind of trapped together in a kind of confine. And so the two artistic modes are kind of in a kind of battle. And that gives the book a kind of dramatic tension, which I think is interesting, and I think you'll enjoy it, and I hope you do, by spending $35 outside. But more importantly, what I think is more important than my perverse interest in Hugh and Ian, is that the book kind of represents an answer to some reasonably interesting questions. The questions are the same ones that were on the invitation for tonight's event. And they are what happens when we look back at our fairy tales and our earliest stories. It's kind of a curious thing about our culture, the way our culture works, that we sort of see fairy tales and our early stories as the things we move away from, we progress away from. And that's good in some ways, because it would be kind of ridiculous and dementing if we stayed there. But one of the strange things about it is the stories, the fairy tales, they live on, and we perish, and then we pass them on to our kids. But even when we do that, we do it in a kind of ritualistic way, a kind of strange way. We don't really think about it too personally. But when we do look back, one of the strange things that I think Ian's art does really well is it shows that even though we've pretended to forget them, they kind of remember us. And they look somewhat perverse in their nakedness and their sinister appearance, and kind of seductive in some ways. If you look at the eyes of like the succubi and the, I don't know, what are they, wood nymphs and stuff like this. They kind of look eerily like they already know you. And that's because they do, because you've pretended to forget them, but they haven't forgotten you. They can't, because they live in your own mind. And we take them with us wherever we go. And so when we turn around and look at them, there's a kind of estrangement. In a way, they're sort of like abandoned children that we've left out in the wilderness. And you know, you can't blame them for getting a little wild along the way, a little naked, a little provocative. It's only natural you leave a child out to be raised in the wilderness. That's how they're going to turn out. But I think it's one of the jobs of the artist. I mean, what would I know? But it's one of the jobs of the artist to get you to think about the things which you already know, but you've tried to forget. And I think that's what's going on in some of these paintings. And I think that's a kind of triumph. So what I would do is, first of all, I'd encourage you to congratulate Ian for his triumph here, and to take a close look at the paintings, and maybe get to reacquaint yourself with your original perversity, your original nakedness, and maybe get to know the self that you've tried to forget. So that's it for me, but please give Ian a huge round of applause.
A difficult speech to follow.
Just take it off, man.
Ian, thank you. That was a wonderful speech, and very well to the point of the art that we're looking at today, and the book that is available. Now, I've got to say something about the book before we get this bloke to come up and have a couple of words. The book is not just a book. The book is actually a numbered edition book, which is pretty rare. It's actually got a little certificate on the inside cover, which is signed not only by the author but also by this bloke here, the artist. And they're numbered, so they're not like you go and just go to Dimmicks and buy another copy. There is a limited edition, so for $35 it is quite a bargain for the book. Not only are the images in there, but there's some great words in there as well. Now, of course, we need to get this bloke up here to have a bit of a few words. So, so Ian Van Gemert, please.
I just want to thank everyone for coming. I know people have travelled quite a bit, especially my nan, who hated what I used to paint. There must be something about the tits that you like now. obviously I want to thank you because, pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, the painting's been absolutely jack shit without the words. So thank you, Hugh. You can talk. Yeah, he's all good.
He said no problem.
Thank you, Luke. I have no idea what you were going to say. Thank you for keeping it clean. Want to thank Dad for doing all the frames, and please ask him how he did it. He's more than happy to tell you.
I think everyone knows.
Yeah. Where's Vaughn?
Here.
Thanks, Vaughn, for taking the photos for the book. Even though we knew nothing about it, we kind of winged our way through it.
Yep.
And Jane, thank you for looking after the kids. I spent hours in the shed painting. So, yep, thank you very much.
Now, just a little bit of housekeeping before we all go and buy art. There is something magical about this gallery.